Power Hour with John Lee.
Through BCCI, the Bank of Credit and Commerce International, or the Bank of Crooks and Criminals International, as it was colloquially known for many years before the scandal broke. So this is a bank, but it's a criminal entity, it's a criminal organisation, it's a gang. And they were known throughout the world, right, as a criminal organisation. Everybody knew. They started in Pakistan with a guy called Abadi. He was funded through Abu Dhabi. Then they made a connection with the Bank of America, and that gave them some kind of, profile. And now, okay, we've got money from the Middle East. We've got a connection to the Bank of America. Okay, BCCI, come in, do your thing. And it was only when the branch was closed down in London, suddenly they just locked the doors, the authorities went in there and locked the doors, that people started asking questions, and millions of people lost all the money around the world with this scandal. And this was a major, major, major event in Parliament in England, because it was a crooked bank and everyone knew it. And this is when it came out that, according to experts, the top 3,000 criminal organisations in the world all use the same bank, BCCI. And this is, and the dictators, all your Noriegas and all your terrorist organisations and your Pablo Escobars, they're all using the same bank. And guess who else is using the bank? The White House and the CIA. Right, so hang on. All these dictators and criminal gangs know which bank to go to. It's not two Indians going up to Medellin and saying, Pablo, why don't you keep your money in our bank? It doesn't work like that. You get your face blown off. Everyone knows where to go, including the CIA. And he said, well, why would the CIA be using the same bank as all these criminal organisations? Well, that's like the young guy walking down the street and he says, Mum, what are you doing on the corner with all these prostitutes? She's a prostitute. Why is the CIA in the room with all these criminal gangs? Because it's a criminal gang. That penny has to drop at some point. These people are criminals and gangsters and killers. And that's why they're using the same bank as Pablo Escobar and Hezbollah and every and any other dark entity in the world, because that's what they are. They're a dark entity and a criminal organisation, the cocaine importation agency, as they are widely known. And so they're up in the mix with all this, with all these, the darkest people in the world, the worst people in the world, and that's exactly what they are. So how was BCCI able to operate? And everyone knew what it was. How was it able to operate? Well, because it had the CIA backing it. It had presidents of countries around the world. And it had a lot of influence in Washington. A lot of what they call lobbyists, which basically means that you hang about in the lobby and then you try and tell somebody what to do and give them some money and all that. So they just had a lot of insidious influence in Washington. Because it was a bank where you can rinse your money and not pay any tax. Thank you very much. So they were very popular in Washington. And they were going in there and they were secretly owning, and they had been for years, the First American Bank. If you watch First American Bank advertisements, it's the most American thing, cheesy American thing you've ever seen in your life. First American. It's actually owned by Pakistanis. You're taking the piss. So, they used that image of First American Bank to seem as American as possible, when in fact it was founded by Pakistanis, funded by Arabs, and was an international bank. They had 400 branches in 78 countries. Just try and name 78 countries. I bet you can't. But they had banks in 78 countries. That is a global criminal organisation, up to the tits in it, with the CIA and everybody else. One guy who knew all this, just so if you ever see any reports about me anywhere, one guy who knew all this that I'm telling you about was a guy called Vince Foster. I've got an annoying habit of holding my bottle like that for 5 minutes, I've noticed it. Vince Foster worked for Bill Clinton. not just in the White House, but in Arkansas as well. When Bill was the governor of Arkansas, he worked at the Rose law firm with Hillary Clinton. He was one of the partners, and so was she. And he was a close boyhood friend of Bill Clinton as well. And he was involved in the MENA airport, operation and scandal. Up to his neck in it with Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton and Wooten Epps and all these gang. He had a criminal gang in place. And Vince Foster was part of it. And Vince Foster was also involved in BCCI, that scandal, because Bill Clinton and his mates in Arkansas used BCCI, like every other criminal entity, to wash the money. So Vince Foster was heavily implicated in the BCCI scandal as well. He was also heavily implicated in the Waco tragedy, where the government went in there and burnt the house down, and they killed a lot of kids. And this was given as the reason for what happened, because Vince Foster apparently committed suicide. And the story is, the commonly told story is that Vince Foster felt bad about the kids in the house at Waco, because he was a family man, Vince Foster, and he was known for that. And then he's sitting at his desk, and he thought, I can't live with this Waco thing anymore. So he's got up, he's left, he's gone to a park called Fort Marcy Park, just outside Washington, D.C., and he's gone into the park, into the woods, and he's put a gun in his mouth and blown his own brains out in the afternoon, because he felt so bad about these kids at Waco. Now, only about 300 problems with that. A bit like this chair. You don't get up from your desk and blow your own brains out in a park in the afternoon normally. But there's absolutely zero forensic evidence to suggest that Vince Foster shot himself. No blood on the gun. He's got a gun in his hand, which is nonsense anyway. If you shoot yourself in the mouth like that, the recoil will throw the gun away every time. Far as well. It's still in his hand. Bullshit. No blood on the gun. He put it in his mouth and shot himself. Why is there no blood on the gun? No powder on his hands. No blood at the scene. They never found the bullet. He had no mud on his shoes when he's supposed to have walked through the park. The man was clearly dumped in the park. So this is a guy who knows too much. He hasn't committed suicide. He knows too much. He's obviously said the wrong thing to the wrong person. Boom. You've just committed suicide, and we're going to leave you in the park. I mean, it was an obvious murder, but it was so insidious as well, because as soon as he was dead, within an hour of his death being announced, Hillary Clinton's people were in his office ransacking it, and there were many official testimonies to that in Congress, eyewitnesses who saw it happen. Of course, they denied doing it, even though they were seen doing it. And all those documents were shredded. And so they made a bullshit news program about this on 60 Minutes, in which they tried to state it as a fact that Vince Foster committed suicide, and failed miserably. He was clearly iced because he knew.